everyone. You are welcome back to another edition of our program. Mac Media wants to use this opportunity to thank all our new subscribers and those who also aired their opinion in our various videos. Thank you very much. Be assured that their opinion are being taken care of, and we hope to do the needful. Thank you very much. And for those who have not subscribed, we ask you to do so and share your opinion as well. For every opinion is very, very important. Don't undermine what you can give out at every topic in place. In today's edition, we are going to differentiate between international terrorism and the people's struggle for self-determination and independence as stated by the United Nations Charters. This topic is chosen because of the recent developments in Nigeria, especially on the case of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, leader of indigenous people of Biafra, and Mazi Simon Ekpa, the Prime Minister of Biafran government, in exile until the international convention that declared the 40 United States of Biafra, USB. In this episode, we will define what international terrorism is, as well as self-determination, people's independence, and the differences. In this topic, three personalities will be used as case study and their work explained at various levels between international terrorism and self-determination. These three personalities are the United Nations, presented by its Secretary General and Human Rights Chief. The next is the former President of Nigeria, General Muhammadu Buhari, and thirdly, Dr. Elizabeth Chadwick, whose work went to differentiate the international terrorism and the people's struggle for self-determination. Before we go into the work of these various personalities, we will first and foremost provide different definitions of both the terrorism and the self-determination of peoples and their work towards independence of their various nations or states. First, what is international terrorism? This is literally defined as violent criminal acts committed by individuals or groups who are inspired or associated with designated foreign terrorist organizations or nations. It can also be sponsored by states of any country to act in accordance with their own desires and needs. However, the term terrorism has its modern origins in the state-sponsored violence of the French Revolution between 1789 to 1799. It may be defined as a direct violence against governments, including the targeted assassinations of the powerful, the code of revolution. Example, assassination of King Alexander I of Yugoslavia and the French Minister for Foreign Affairs at Marseilles on 9th October 1934. But a few. It must be also noted that terrorism has no approval from any international organization like United Nations. Then we will look at the definition of people's self-determination as approved by the United Nations. First, self-determination is the process by which a group of people, usually possessing a certain degree of national consciousness, form their own state and choose their own government. Indeed, the self-determination of peoples, in contrast, but this contrast is the international terrorism. In contrast, self-determination is a legal right. A forceful struggle to obtain the right presupposes the existence and the desirability of sovereignty of the desired nation. Note that the word forceful used in this definition is caused by the circumstance during the struggle for this group of people. However, this will be properly streamlined and defined in our next topic. Do not fail to grab this. Thank you. Let us continue. When the people struggling for self-determination using this unauthorized force as allowed to seek greater autonomy, to challenge an existing government or status quo, or secede territorially, one has to realize that the parental government from which the new nation to be born or succeed has used excessive force against the agitators. The counter-reaction will always be that the government often defeated and persecuted them domestically as criminals and terrorists. And this is playing out in Nigeria today, especially during the time of the former president of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, who also acted as Nigerian military head of state and is one of the personalities in this very topic. Let us reflect back once a bit. Major General Muhammadu Buhari believed in international terrorism, a means of achieving whatever he wants to achieve during his regimes. Between 1984 to 2013, he never changed his mind over terroristic acts as a means of achieving whatever he wants to achieve. Even the consequences and the lives of those lost in 9/11 did not deter him or make him change his mind over use of terrorism to achieve his motives. Therefore, Omar Diko was the first victim of his acts. Before he became the president of Nigeria in 2015, he had a controversial issue on the issue of Boko Haram terrorists, whose motives were defined in their activities, including abduction of Chibok female students, Borno State, of which the president then decided to fight against the terrorist activities of the Boko Haram. This decision of the government of Goodluck Jonathan was bitterly condemned by Muhammadu Buhari, who later became the president of Nigeria in 2015. However, Muhammadu Buhari's belief in terrorism was condemned by various group of peoples, including Doyin Okupe, who granted interview to condemn the belief and support of terrorism by the then APC presidential candidate, Muhammadu Buhari. It was not only Doyin Okupe that condemned former military president, but also Reno Omokri. In 2013, he stated, I quote, Muhammadu Buhari said, the military offensive against Boko Haram is anti-North. In continuation, he also condemned, I quote, that same year, Lai Mohammed said, The proscription of Boko Haram was unconstitutional. This man later became the information minister in the cabinet of Muhammadu Buhari, who also condemned any attack against the terroristic activities of Boko Haram in Nigeria. Fortunately, in today's Nigeria, these are the people who are condemning those who are fighting for self-determination under the Charter of United Nations as terrorists. The question is, what did the United Nations themselves say about self-determination? Article 3 of the United Nations on self-determination stated, I quote, indigenous peoples have the right to self-determination. By virtue of that right, they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development, unquote. Another question is, what did the United Nations say about terrorism? In 1985, after the kidnap of Dr. Umaru in London, the United Nations came out with a resolution in 1985 condemning every activity of terrorism. For example, the United Nations General Assembly Resolution A/Res/40/61 of 9th December 1985 on measures to prevent international terrorism stated in paragraph 1 that the Assembly unequivocally condemns as criminal all acts, methods, and practices of terrorism wherever and by whomever committed, unquote. Despite all this, General Buhari was not brought to book. This engineered his mind. In 2021, he decided to act again by kidnapping the leader of indigenous people of Biafra and renditioned him back to Nigeria and charged him for terrorism. Act he understood passionately that never happened. Now we look at how Dr. Elizabeth Chadwick defined, quote, the self-determination of peoples, which she defined as a legal right, forceful struggle to obtain the right presupposes the existence and the durability of sovereignty. She continues, she stated, states may acknowledge the rights of peoples to choose how they wish to be organized and governed, but any national right to use force to achieve the result will not be recognized by a state threatened with liberation violence, unquote. The question here is, has IPOB used threatened force, or has Nigerian army used threatened force against the IPOB? That brings us to another topic of self-determination and the right of the peoples to defend themselves in any act of aggression by a state that felt that self-determination and the liberation of any group of people within the state will affect their economic activities, especially when the rulers of such nation discriminate, apply racism or tribalism, oppress the people from where the economic activities of the state are coming from, employ state-sponsored terrorism against the people, as to incriminate those who are seeking for self-determination and liberation from the original state. These are the preambles of what is to come. Please stay tuned to receive the next episode of this very program. With these definitions, we come to the end of this very program. We ask you to subscribe if you have not subscribed, like, share, and leave your comments of engineering us to do more. With this, we come to the end of the program. Thank you for watching, and remain blessed till we come to you once again.